Welcome to Rootstem and welcome to my painting video for this model. Hi guys, thank you very much for joining me. If you're new to the channel, please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification button if you want to see more. And as before, today we are going to be painting Ghazghkull. Yay! We've got a variety of different, it's mainly going to be airbrushing, and thankfully Ghazghkull is a Ork Goff, and human Goffs and Ork Goffs, they like black, which is a good thing because it means that we can actually get through this model quite quickly. But I am going to be using various different shades through an airbrush because of course this is a big model. It's about the size of a dreadnought. He's a big lad and we're going to make sure that he's done properly. First off then, we've got some Dark Reaper loaded in the airbrush. We're going to hit some of these panels. I'm basically going to try and make majority black, but there's going to be some, because of course the face, the orc head is separate, the backpack is separate, the jaw line is separate. These are going to be, I'm going to try and do like a chevron pattern, not a chevron pattern, a checkered pattern on the actual jaw, maybe even on one of the shoulder pads. I've got to make sure that this black is done first. So let's crack on, let's try and get the highlights and just go from there. Second layer is going to be mechanical standard grey. I'm going to try and just do a bit more like a spot highlight rather than trying to, get it deep in there or trying to highlight everything. So mainly just on like a corner and then just leave little bits if I can. And then we're going to be going on to a dry brush. One of the next things we're going to be doing on Gaz is we're going to be using Caliban Green and we're going to be spraying his head. So next up for Gaz's head, zoom in a bit, we've got some Warpstone Glow, and I know like I've done the black arm and nothing else yet, but this is so I can get it out of the way. I'm kind of going to go down the head with the Warpstone at an angle and just try and create a basic highlight. And last but not least, we're going to get a little tiny bit of moot green done from an angle, and that way that should give us our final highlight before we put anything else onto the head. So the next stage on the Ghazghkull head, I've diluted some Ork Flesh contrast paint and I've done it 4:1 with the contrast medium. So I've got like an old school Ork wash effectively, and then we're just going to just put it all over the head. That will darken it, but it will also run into recesses, giving us the shade, allowing us to have a very crisp finished off Ghazghkull. Well, his face at least. So now get some Abaddon black, and we're going to be painting Gaz's head. We're basically just going to be looking at doing just painting up the wires that's coming out of his actual dome, and we're going to be painting his dome like a silver colour, and the eye ocular section. I'm going to be painting that up black as well. Just be as neat as you possibly can. Don't get it on the green. So going back to that main model, we're getting some Dawnstone out. I've already done a little bit of this. I've got a flat-headed, I mean you don't have to have a flat-headed brush, but I've got a flat-headed brush that I'm using. It's an older brush that I'm using as the dry brush. Make sure you've got majority of the excess off. Try it on your hand if need be. And if you can see there, I have just been sort of scraping it dry brush style across the ridges, so that we're picking up the edges of Gaz's armour, and do that all over your black. So moving on now, let's get some other colours on Gaz. He is majority black. I am going to try and keep the majority black on there because I think it's a really good colour and it increases the speed of the actual job. As you can see, I've got some corn red out. I've already put some corn red down on various bits. I'm going to do this knee pad as well, which is why I didn't dry brush it, but I shouldn't have airbrushed. It's thin, so you're probably going to have to... Corn red's really good at covering, so you'll probably just have to do 2 coats. And I'm going to do... So not only am I doing that there, but I'm also, with a bigger brush, I'm going to do the back of his fist. So we're going to have a red hair. I've got some little red icons, and then we're going to have a red fist. And then we'll do some whites and silvers later on as well. But get that painted up, come back to me. So the next stage of the red, I have masked up as best as I can because I don't want to mess anything up on this. And we are going to be putting like a highlight on there. We're going to be using Evil Sun Scarlet. We're basically going to be with the red, just to let you guys know, we're going to be doing this, then a shade, then this again, and then a bit of a dry brush of orange. So, right, basically I'm going to fire it away from me so I don't actually get onto a lot of the other models. Other parts of the models, I'm going to be doing the knee downwards there. I'm going to be doing the edge of that there, which is why I've masked that up. And of course we're going to be doing downwards on the arm plate. So I'm going to get some thin down Fire Dragon Bright. I've already done it here. And we're just going to edge highlight this red as best as we possibly can. Not doing too much, just, and then kind of doing a bit of the edge and then coming back and doing some more. Because once it starts to dry, it will dry a lot darker than what you put it on. So give it a minute. And then come back and just go back over again. Get some really good looking bits of edge highlighting. So silver has now been painted on. I've actually done it on the claws and some of the pipes at the back. It's quite a bright silver, is the gunmetal one, and we're going to dull that down because what I'm wanting is a bright silver to begin with, then dull it down with some shades. Then we're going to move to Ufflung Grey and White Scar. We're going to try and blend them as best as I possibly can. I'm going to find my appropriate find my appropriate brush, not you. And basically we're going to do that skull on the front. So this one here, right at the bottom, we're just going to very carefully with the Ufflung Grey just paint that in. As you can see, the Ufflung Grey is quite watery to begin with. I have put it into my wet palette and maybe I shouldn't have done, but let that dry, a couple of coats, and then blend up to skull white. Right. Whoop. Let's get some Null oil on this. So all over the silver. And it was a bit heavy, don't worry about it. Basically we're wanting to make it look like it's a little bit oily. But make sure that that silver is definitely, for definite, and that silver is definitely dry because it's a very heavy, it's got a very big flake count. Next up, we're going to get some Ushabti bone, and we are going to paint up the tusks and the teeth. So that needs a very stiff brush. So basically, I'm just going to be painting up the tusks, which are on here. Now these will need a couple of coats. Just paint these up because we're going to try and do that reverse effect that Games Workshop do, but we're going to try and do it with the airbrush. So we need to put the base coat on and then also do the skulls at the same time as doing this, to paint up the skulls of the Ushabti bone and his Ghazghkull's teeth. Not too much about that part, we're going to do that in a bit. So what we're going to do next is we're going to basically airbrush Steel Legion Drab. As you can see, I've pierced some parafilm, and we're just going to effectively just highlight, use the Steel Legion Drab from about halfway up, and then top it off with Mournfang Brown, just putting a bit and mixing them both while it's in the pot of the airbrush. So, as I sometimes want to do, I've skipped ahead a bit. All the cream areas, we've just put some Seraphim Sepia over the top, and anything that looks a bit like a string, we've got some Talan sand going over there, and I'll probably put some more Seraphim Sepia over the top of that as well, including the stitching, making it look like we're putting Ghazghkull's head back on a platter. I think I'm going to glue that in a moment, but also while we've got the Talan sand, I might do his trousers. No, Steel Legion Drab. So next up, I've wet pelleted Steel Legion Drab and Talan sand into the trousers. I'm not really going to be focusing too much on that because it's away from the main area. You just got to be really careful with your brush strokes. And then next up, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do here, if I'm completely honest. I think it might be time to put the backpack on and maybe even attach the face. Although there is some orc skin that's quite exposed back here, so I'll probably get that done. So now we're doing Ghazghkull's backpack. I've got lead belcher in the airbrush, and basically I'm going to just spray it kind of concentrate on certain areas, so a bit more of it like a zenithal type of highlight. I'm going to try and avoid this bit here if I can. I don't worry if I catch it too much, and maybe the tops of them because they're going to be a different. Oh, actually no, I'll try and get some of those into different colours, and then of course we're going to be doing the skull. So let's try and get all this done if we can. Next up, some null oil. We're going to do this from the bottom. Next up, some Stormhorse Silver. That's going to go across the top. Okay, so after I've painted the orcs, I'm still doing bits more because of course we're just doing it in layers because it's on the silver. I've got some grey sear that I've put on. I've put on the skull there and the pipes. We're going to be doing those in some nice colours. Some contrast black Templar, that's been put onto the frag launchers, give it a metallic weapon look. We've got some Screaming Bell, which I've put on that thing there and the two bits of pipe. And then some Abaddon Black, which is going on the headers for the actual engine block. And of course the cable that's going around the base of Ghazghkull. I am going to be doing a little bit more of the black there. But I'm going to now try and do a bit of a burn effect on some of these pipes. I'm starting off with some Dragonov Nightshade. I'm just going to put, using an older brush, some of that. I'm going to have it as if that bit there is getting hot. So just start by putting that into that section. Rub it on both sides. Make it, like I said, that particular bit of metal is getting hot. I could actually do it as well. I'm thinking about it. I might do it down here. And this will just give you some added flavour to the model. Before that dries completely, get some Druchii Violet. Just put it on just a bit further down and overlapping the Dragonov, so you're kind of mixing it a little. Not too much, but and we will be coming back to that, but we're just going to let that dry. So, because the next stage it needs to be a third ink wash over the top of that bats while they're dry. So let's get some of this stuff done. So for the pipes, we've got out Contrast, Nazrag Yellow, Blood Angel Red, Telsar Blue, Black Templar, Orc Flesh and Griff Charger Grey. And we just kind of made some dirty looking cables. Put Griff Charger Grey on the skull, and then we use some of the red on top of some of the metallic there as well. That's going to be nice and drying now, but that means that we've just effectively got the cables just quickly done and out the way. If you want to put a bit of highlight on them, you can do, just try and use the appropriate colours. So, I'm going to be using some Shabti Bone and Talan Sand. Shabti Bone, of course, for the actual bone. Talan Sand will be, when I get round to it, will be for the little cables and the little ties. We're going back to the pipe, so get some Seraphim Sepia. Just gonna put that all over the previous inks that you've done, which is why you need to be dried. And that will hopefully create the burn effect that you require. So I managed to attach the backpack plus the cables. As you can see, the cables look nice and like copper wire. And now we're just going to put some Agrax Earthshade onto the skull, and we're also going to put it on the brass, the scorpion pieces that we've done as well. I'm using a going to be using a medium shade brush. This is an old medium shade brush, and I kind of need to clean it properly because it's getting a little stiff. As you can see, it's starting to, so I'm going to need to get some. Problem is with washers, I do get down into base, but if you use some like Master's brush soap or things of that nature, you can normally get away. Now I am going to use Agrax Earthshade. I'm going to use a standard Agrax Earthshade on the skull. All nice and dark, looks a bit different than the and once this is dried, I'll go back in and do any of the attachments with the appropriate correct colour. But on the metal bits, if you've got some, you can still use Agrax Earthshade, but if you've got some Agrax Earthshade gloss, use that instead. There we go. So of course, done his base. I'll try and put something up here regarding me doing my bases. Although I'll be honest, if you have a look through a playlist, it should be on there. And of course, I've done these things. I'll be doing a video on them soon. Put a bit of water into his little paddle, and there we go. We have a Ghazghkull. Now I've not done any checkers on. The reason I've not done any checkers on there is because it's very difficult to paint, and this big lad is needed for future combat, and I don't have time to order some specialist checker transfers. So, but there you go. Thank you very much for watching this, guys. Please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification button if you do want to see more. Next week, he's going to have a buddy.